All right, so we have a big-time recruiting weekend ahead of us, and we've talked about that all week. We've talked about everything that's happening on the recruiting trail. But we got to talk today about the press conference that BV held. We got to talk to some of the players. There is some exciting stuff happening in Norman up for the upcoming inaugural SEC season. Something we got to talk about. And we also got the news that Julie Venables is cancer-free. God is good all the time, right? You guys were out there praying for her. Brent Venables was very appreciative of Sooner Nation and the backing that the fans have simply been able to give him, not only in his short time as a head coach here at Oklahoma, but just in his time as a defensive coordinator when he was here underneath Bob Stoops. So before we dive into a lot of the other updates and what's going on and what it could mean for the Oklahoma Sooners, I need to hear from y'all, so make sure you're joining the discussion, jumping down in the comments below. And if you haven't already, hit that like and hit the subscribe button. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers, and I want you guys to come and be a part of the channel. And I think like 62% of you guys aren't subscribed that watch my videos anyways, so it might just be beneficial for you to hit that subscribe button since you're watching. But we got to start with the news that Jalil Farooq he's kind of standing out in the wide receiver room, because I think when you look at the wide receiver room for Oklahoma this upcoming season, you lost probably one of your best in terms of production wide receivers in Drake Stoops this offseason. And Jalil Farooq, he had his moments last year where he frustrated a lot of fans. Like, let's just call it for what it is. The fumbles frustrated fans. And I know a lot of people are not the biggest Jalil Farooq fans right now, but you have to admit that Jalil Farooq's athleticism for this team could be a game changer for the Sooners, especially going into the SEC. Whether that's going to be on the slot or on the outside, Jalil Farooq can be an absolute monster. In his career, he's gotten a little over 1,000 receiving yards, but last year had 694 receiving yards on 2 touchdowns, and he had 17 carries for 95 yards. So obviously we were able to see Jalil Farooq take it out of the backfield as well. And here's the deal. If Jalil Farooq steps up, he ends up being a leader in that room, which I think is going into his senior year. I think that's what it would be, his senior year at this point, because he'll be going into year 4. Going into his senior year, he's going to have a lot of experience. He's going to be able to help some of those younger guys like Zion Kearney, Ivan Carrion, Zion Raggins, Jacob Jordan, who was the preferred walk-on wide receiver that if you guys watched my videos, you guys knew I was high on, Jay was high on. Not a lot of people were paying attention to him. 3-star wide receiver out of Southlake. I believe it was Carroll, maybe? Out of Southlake, though, I know that for sure. Came to Oklahoma. He had offers to like Texas Tech. He had Power 5 offers that he could have went to, and he chose to prefer walk-on here in Oklahoma. But when you look at Farooq, he's had honorable all Big 12 selections. He started all the games for Oklahoma last year. He is a tenured veteran. And I think for this wide receiver room going into year 2 with Emmett Jones, you're going to see Jalil Farooq take the next step. But additionally, you saw George Stoya put out a tweet saying Jaden Gibson is not losing in the competition. Jaden Gibson is also stepping up his game. He played in all 13 games and made a start against Arizona in the Alamo Bowl. Here's where I'm excited about the wide receiver core and why you should be excited about it. You got Nick Anderson, who we know led the country last year in receiving touchdowns. And you imagine Nick Anderson's going to take another step up this offseason, right? He's going to get that connection with Jackson Arnold. But we also know Jaden Gibson has that same connection with Jackson Arnold, because multiple times when Jackson Arnold was in games, he was looking for Jaden Gibson. And let me tell you why. Because Jaden Gibson, he's 6'5". And I believe Nick Anderson is like, what, 6'4"? So you could have literal twin towers on the outside for Jackson Arnold to be throwing to with the Jalil Farooq in the slot. Or maybe you put Jalil Farooq on the outside with one of those two and put your Purdue transfer in the slot. Or you put Andrell Anthony on the outside when he's healthy and put Jalil Farooq in the slot. Then not to mention, you got a guy like Brennan Thompson who you really just tell him, hey, go run down the field and we're going to get the ball to you. No designed route, just get down the field. That's a pretty good wide receiver core. And so to hear guys last year that, yes, Jalil Farooq was an impact wide receiver for Oklahoma, but to hear that he's taken that next step, being a leader in that room, and then hearing Jaden Gibson, a guy who, yeah, he had 375 total yards. I wouldn't necessarily have counted him as a top 4 wide receiver in that room last year. Top 4 wide receiver, maybe top 5, but not top 4. Not one of your bona fide starters, right? To hear Jaden Gibson going in here, beating out the competition, that's got to make you as an Oklahoma fan excited, because Jaden Gibson is one of the wide receivers where we've said, hey, if he puts it together, Jaden Gibson could be an absolute monster for Oklahoma. Now, I did want to look at one more piece of news that Oklahoma was able to get out to the fans, and that was the news that Justin Harrington, Showtime, is getting his 7th year of college eligibility, especially after he went down last year with the knee injury. And you saw him come out of fall camp. He ended up being the starter at Cheetah, which, if you know Brent Venables' defense and you know what it takes to play that position, Justin Harrington must understand Brent Venables' defense pretty well. And for the games that Justin Harrington was in there, 22 total tackles, 11 solos. He had 1 interception. He had 2 pass breakups. Justin Harrington was playing really, really well. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know if he starts the season. I think it's just going to depend on how his recovery is from the injury. But if he is back in full strength before the season, going into fall camp, there's a chance that while you're trying to get Deshaun McCullough recovered, you've got some other pieces you're still trying to figure out on the linebacker. That linebacker room is going to look really good next year. They're going to look really good. And so it's really exciting news. That's one that we've really been waiting. And I know Brent Venables and the staff, which, I mean, quite honestly, I know we were waiting on the waiver. I mean, what were you going to do if they didn't give you the waiver? I mean, you were just going to stick that guy out there anyways and call the NCAA's bluff, because I think we've kind of figured out at this point the NCAA, they really don't have any power. And what are they going to do? What are they going to do? So that's what was kind of around. I mean, you've heard some guys gaining weight, some guys losing some weight, getting ready to be college athletes. Like, they're prepping their bodies, and it's exciting to hear that Daniel Okoye is 22 pounds added, and he's running faster than he ever has in his life. So sounds like he's going to be an absolute monster. You hear just David Stone and other guys putting on weight and moving better. So it's going to be an interesting summer. It's going to be an interesting fall camp. I think that's where we're going to see guys really separate themselves and see who is going to submit themselves into the rotation this season. But if you're an Oklahoma fan, what you heard just going into spring ball, it's got to be giving you a little bit of confidence. So I want to hear from y'all. Make sure you're joining the discussion and jumping down in the comments below. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, because, you know, we're on pace to try to get the 10,000 subscribers, and I want you to be a part of the community here. Now, YouTube wants you guys to watch one of these 2 videos, so you need to make sure you're tuning into one of